What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today we're making meatloaf, and not just any meatloaf. We're stuffing this bad boy with cheese and hitting it with a nice barbecue glaze. Now let's get started. We're going in with a diced onion, a diced jalapeno, and a diced red bell pepper. We're going to sweat those vegetables down until they become tender. Season with a little salt, pepper, and garlic. Once the vegetables are cooked, we're going to pop them in the refrigerator or freezer for 15 to 20 minutes until they reach at least room temperature. Once they are nice and chilled, we're going to add them to our ground beef mixture here. Now you got to get in there with your hands. That's really the only way to get this done. Add a little bit of hot sauce, some Worcestershire sauce. God, that's a terrible word. Does anybody know how to say that word? It's got to be the worst word ever. Anyway, moving on. We're going to add our eggs, and then we're going to slowly work in our breadcrumbs a little bit at a time. Essentially, we're making one enormous meatball here. So like I said, get in there with your hands and really fold everything together, making sure that you're seasoning throughout. You do not want a bland meatloaf, so what I'm using here is a mixture of salt, pepper, garlic, and onion powder, and then I'm going in with some McCormicks hamburger seasoning. Surprisingly, McCormicks makes a really good hamburger seasoning, but feel free to use whatever you like, and just continue to work everything in with your hands until you get something that resembles a big ass meatball like this. If it's holding together when you lift it up out of your bowl, it's just about ready. But just to be on the safe side, I'm going to add a little bit more breadcrumbs. I'm using 85-15 ground beef here. 80-20 would work as well, but I want a little bit leaner just because the fat renders during the cooking process, and I didn't want this to fall apart. So we're going to cover this with foil and pop that in the refrigerator for 30 minutes to an hour. This recipe can be done in the oven, but I'm doing it on my Traeger. Now that the meatloaf has had time to chill, we're going to go ahead and start forming our loaf, as you see me doing so eloquently there. Once you have something that resembles a meatloaf, go ahead and use your fingers and dig a trench, which is going to be the home for this sliced cheese. I'm using extra sharp cheddar, but feel free to get creative. Use whatever cheese you like. Just try not to use shredded because it doesn't melt quite as well. Once you have your meatloaf properly stuffed, go ahead and close up that trench that you built. And then we're going to pop it on a wire rack and season it again. Same seasoning as before. Just make sure you season this bad boy adequately. It is a 2-pound meatloaf, so make sure you season it like one. Now we're going to pop this in the smoker or the oven, in your case, if you don't have a smoker. And then we're going to start on our sauce. We're using 2 parts of your favorite barbecue sauce and 1 part ketchup. Warm that through and whisk it together. And then after about 30 minutes or so, the meatloaf should be about halfway done. And then I'm going to give you a dramatic baste right here. But basically cover it in your sauce and then let it cook the second half of the way. And then here is the money shot. One thing I will say is to make sure that you let this meatloaf rest for a little bit longer than you probably think it needs to. I would say let it rest for 30 to 45 minutes. Even an hour wouldn't hurt. You really don't want the cheese to ooze out of the meatloaf like mine did. I got a little overzealous, but nonetheless, it's a delicious meatloaf. Hope you guys enjoy it. And if you do, please subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support.